What's up, everyone? Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Isaiah Copon. It's December 2, 2024, and this is Lift and Learn episode 135. In this episode, I'll talk about how to lose fat without losing muscle, and then I'll talk about the difference between circuit training versus straight sets. Before that, though, I'll talk a bit about what I've been up to lately, and that might include fitness-related topics, and it might not. If you want to follow me, your host, on Instagram, it's isaiah.copon, and you can also check out my website, isaiahcopon.com. The podcast is on Instagram at Lift and Learn Podcast, on Twitter at Lift and Learn Pod, and also on Facebook. You can just search Lift and Learn Podcast. With that being said, let's get into it. Oh man, here we go. I'm back, and this time for good, I swear. I know the few people who listen to the podcast are like, oh my God, where have you been? I don't want to dive into it too much right now, but basically 2024 has flown by. I don't know if it's just me, but yeah, 2024 along with the tail end of 2023, I feel, because I got married to my best friend late last year. Now have a baby girl who is absolutely my world, the cutest thing ever. And on top of that, I actually moved out of the house finally. That's right. After 34 years, I did it, guys. So yeah, definitely adulting to a whole new level lately. Life has been great though. I mean, new challenges in my life, obviously. Still crushing it at Movati for the time being. Made some good friends this year. Had a good golf season that was cut short because of the birth of my baby girl. She takes full priority over everything in my life now. I ended up getting pretty good at bowling during the summer league that I was in. I almost bowled a perfect game when I was practicing, which is kind of wild. Came from a long way from the first time in summer league where I think I averaged a score of 115. Yeah. I had some time off of work because of parental leave that got the PS5 up and running again. Had to dust that off. So I went through like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth again on hard mode, one of the Spider-Man games, and finished God of War Ragnarok as well since I had 2 months off. And let's just leave the gaming bit at that there. Next point, in terms of my training, that's gotten better. I've changed it up a little bit. More exciting though is the diet, which is slowly transitioning to more protein, all that good stuff, more vegetables per meal. I have my own kitchen for the first time in a while, so I've been back to my, quote unquote bodybuilding days, hitting protein intake goals, upping the calories, going on a good lean bulk for the rest of the year, and probably the majority of 2025, so I'll document how that goes. You can follow me on Instagram for more of that. My current plan is to go through a bulk for the next 12 to 14 months or so, and then an easy slow cut for 2026 because of vacation plans that I'm already thinking about. Going back a bit here, I got ahead of my notes a little bit. I was really efficient when I had those 2 months off. I did a bunch of programming for not only my clients, but for myself. And if I stick to the plan, I should be able to put on some good amount of muscle along with other health goals that I have planned. I'm now in my mid-30s, which is, oh man, I don't like saying that out loud. And my goal is to still keep improving, even though a lot of people think that that's not possible anymore. Yeah, we're all getting older, but that doesn't mean that life just stops. You can still make progress no matter where you are in your fitness level or your fitness age or even your biological age. You could be 70 just starting out and you'll see the benefits of changing your diet and exercise. This goes beyond just the numbers and results that we all get caught up in seeing. You can choose any time to change your life. And for me, my baby girl has actually given me more motivation and especially even more discipline, which I didn't even think was possible. So find that purpose for yourself or, just do what you can to help yourself. I think that's the big thing to take away from this. I don't know if that made any sense, but rant is over. And hopefully I sound a bit more clearer now too. Maybe you noticed, maybe you haven't, which is fine. But I have a new setup at the new house or a new place. I don't want to say house because it's not a home. It's just a little condo apartment kind of thing, Got a new mic with this professional looking boom arm thing, which looks so sick to have at my desk. So yeah, you upping the production value of all of this, not to mention all of the RGB lights I have going on at the desk, which looks so cool every time I step into the home office here. In terms of my training style right now, I've been doing a more performance-based kind of routine. So for the past few weeks, I've been doing more sports-specific stuff. So getting away from the pure bodybuilding training for a bit to give my body a break, because that's usually what I gravitate towards, like a little bodybuilding, strength focus kind of lifts, and I'm challenging myself in a different way, which has been fun. Definitely outside of my comfort zone. I mean, I literally just got home from doing reformer Pilates actually at my work, and that is definitely outside my comfort zone. But I'm pretty sure my inner thighs are going to be like yelling at me tomorrow. But if you know me anyway, I love playing sports, and if I want to be ready to play said sports, I need to take advantage of the off season so that by the time summer comes around, I'll be ready to excel at, golf, basketball, softball, maybe some volleyball action in there as well. Who knows, maybe soccer if I'm feeling real wild. The good news about the new spot I'm living at is that I'm literally a 5-minute walk to this basketball court. It's outdoor, which is not the greatest, but whatever. But regardless, I can't wait to take advantage of this coming spring, the summer, because these days, people my age aren't willing to even play basketball anymore because everyone's just so out of shape, at least most of the people I grew up playing basketball with. Being in our own spot, though, has been great so far. It's actually been like a month or so, and it's taken a bit of an adjustment, of course. I always have to make sure I have food for the whole family, not just for myself. I've been in a constant rotation between beef, chicken, salmon, eggs. I'll probably dive into this later. Pea meal bacon as my main protein sources, along with the dairy sources like milk, chocolate milk, Greek yogurt. I'm also trying my best to stay on top of having my supplements every day, like creatine, protein powder every now and then, some vitamin D, biotin, fish oil, multivitamin, even got that elderberry on rotation too. And, now that it's getting a little colder outside, I've been dabbling a little bit into my tea days. So I got this like honey ginger lemon tea, which is just absolutely money for like the immune system boosting effects. So yeah, that's a bit of a life update, which I'm sure you'll hear more of every week if you, keep on listening. Training and meals are going well right now, along with juggling feeds for the baby and trying to get as much sleep as I can, which is still one of the biggest obstacles in my life. Optimal sleep just does not exist for me anymore. Anyways, let's get into these questions because I haven't done this in a while. Question 1, how to lose fat without losing muscle. For this one, there's a fine balance that comes into play here. And you could really talk about this topic nonstop because there's so many factors that come into play here, but I'll try to keep it as basic as possible for everyone to understand. First off, you can't just keep eating less and less calories while doing more and more cardio. That's going to tell your body to be more efficient when it comes to using calories. This means that it'll be nearly impossible to maintain your muscle mass while losing fat. Yes, you may lose weight, but that weight is going to be so much harder to maintain because if you're losing muscle, you're slowing down your metabolism, plain and simple. And if your body is burning less calories when you're not working out, that's a recipe for disaster because what you're burning at rest is more important than how many calories you burn during the workout. Your workouts are usually an hour or an hour and a half. That means for nearly 23 hours of the day, you're likely at a slightly higher than resting heart rate when you're doing other activities throughout the day. That's where you need to be burning more calories because that is what adds up over time. At the same time, if you're not eating enough, you open the door for nutrient deficiencies and other health issues. Style of training, of course, would be resistance training, especially if you're new. Your training focus at this time should not be doing more cardio. Lifting weights will help you build muscle while burning fat. There should be no surprises there. This is the most sustainable way to train over time to maintain a healthy body weight. It doesn't mean you need to be as big as a bodybuilder, but putting on a good amount of muscle will boost your metabolism and keep your weight in a good and healthy range. Simple, but not easy. If you are planning on a cut, aka planning on losing some fat in the next few months, then don't do it so drastically. You shouldn't just start off by cutting calories week by week because eventually you'll hit a plateau. Let's say, for example, you're looking to go on vacation soon. Then you have to give yourself an extra few weeks to lose whatever weight you need to lose. Don't just start losing weight a month before and then expect yourself to lose 10 or 20 pounds in a few weeks. I'm not saying it's impossible. You could do it, but you'll definitely be sacrificing some sort of muscle there because it's such a drastic cut in such a short amount of time. And when you start eating normal again, you'll gain back all of the weight you lost and then some. That's the worst part. That's the most likely scenario there. I've seen it happen time and time again. Going through a longer and slower cut should ensure that you're keeping on more muscle. That's just how the body works. What good ever came from rushing things, right? How much should you be eating though? That's a tough one because everyone is so different. What I've found to be the most reliable in this situation is being right around maintenance calories. Remember, we're not talking about losing weight and not losing muscle. The question is how to lose body fat while not losing muscle or losing as little muscle as possible. So my suggestion in this case would actually be to be slightly above maintenance calories because that'll ensure that your weight will generally stay the same, maybe slightly increase, but that doesn't really matter because that's usually the sweet spot when it comes to losing body fat percentage while maintaining muscle or even gaining a little bit. You might even notice if you're eating in that slight surplus, you actually gain muscle and lose body fat percentage, which is like the sweet spot. On the other hand, if you take your maintenance calories and go slightly below that, I still think you'll see similar results, but that would mean weight would go down slightly. Body fat percentage should also go down, but in terms of muscle mass, that'll usually stay the same or slightly go down, but not as much of a decrease if the main focus of your training was cardio. I've even seen in some cases where a client would eat under maintenance calories, do all the right things, lose weight, lose body fat percentage, and also go up in muscle mass just because we changed something like style of training or added more whole foods and protein into the diet. There's a lot of factors that come into play, so it is complex. But shoot for the stars and you still land on the moon type of scenario here. When it comes to the food you're choosing, like I just said, it would be best to eat nutrient-dense foods. So focus on whole foods, lean proteins, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, healthy fats, top-tier whole foods, These foods provide essential nutrients for muscle maintenance and overall health while keeping you, while helping you stay satisfied on fewer calories. So what have I been eating lately? Or thoughts about what to eat. My meals go a bit like this. Breakfast could be something like eggs and a carb and a vegetable, or Greek yogurt, some fruits and protein granola. One time I had a salmon for breakfast because I just felt like I'm also Filipino, so my rice is like a staple carb for at least 2 of my meals. Lunch, I typically rotate through beef or chicken, and dinner, I'll usually rotate again through beef or chicken, but that could also mean salmon, steak, tilapia, which I haven't had yet. I had some ground turkey the other day, not really loving that one right now, so that'll be maybe like a once a month scenario. And yeah, I talked about it already, but if your goal really is to lose weight and not lose muscle, or at least lose as little muscle as possible, then you need to be resistance training. Oh, we're going back to this point. Incorporating strength training and exercises into your routine will be the key to maintain and possibly even still build muscle mass, depending on your fitness level and how dialed in you actually get. Focus on compound movements like the squats, the deadlifts, bench press, rows, because they engage the most muscle groups or multiple muscle groups at the same time, and they're effective for building strength and muscle. You want to still work as hard as you can, still track your workouts and do your best to maintain your strength as much as you can, because what you'll notice is if you do go through a cut and you're losing weight, it'll be hard to maintain your strength as the cut goes on and on. All right, so what about HIIT? So when it comes to cardio, I still think HIIT, high intensity interval training, is king if this is your goal. And if you're capable of doing it, that's also a big thing. This is going to help you burn a lot of calories in a short amount of time because you're doing something along the lines of sprinting for 10 seconds, resting or slow walking for 15 seconds, and then sprinting again for 10, resting for 15, whatever it is. You do that a few times over and over again. It's tiring. Trust me, it's a lot more difficult than the slow, steady state cardio where you're just walking for half an hour at like some mediocre speed or slow speed. One caveat though with this, the only time I would suggest HIIT training to a client is if they're capable of doing it. If they move or run properly and if their fitness is high enough, their fitness level, is high enough, I wouldn't recommend a beginner or someone overweight to train this way, regardless if it's the best way, because the risk of injury is too high. It would put too much pressure on their joints, especially the knees and the feet if you're doing sprints for your HIIT training. Train within your capacity. So don't run or sprint if you haven't run since you were a child. Those mechanics, if you don't do them properly, are just going to cause problems in the long term and quite possibly the short term too. Studies have shown that HIIT is going to keep your muscle more than a LISS session, so that means low intensity, steady state. That's because during HIIT sessions, you're doing a certain cardio session where you're sprinting or something, where you're doing more high intensity activity as opposed to LISS, which is, that low and slow. Now, because you're doing high intensity, this is going to preserve the muscle on your body because you're using a different system within your body. You're using a different muscle fiber type. You're using strictly your ATP energy system and then resting for a bit and waiting for that ATP to slightly regenerate before going back to your next set or whatever it is. And when you're doing LISS, on the other hand, you're using your aerobic system in your body, which may cause you to lose a tiny bit of muscle in the process. Now, this may be negligible depending on diet, but in most cases, if you want to lose fat and lose as little muscle as possible, then HIIT would be the way to go if you can do that. In most cases, with most clients, it doesn't really matter which form of cardio you decide to do because the important thing for general population is to simply move more. I usually will recommend low intensity cardio again because Gen Pop isn't prepared for HIIT cardio. If you compete, on the other hand, or do events like CrossFit or high rock style training, then HIIT would be a better choice for you. But again, you have to be able to have the capacity to do it, and most people would be better off doing low intensity cardio because there's less of an injury risk. Okay, so talked about the right form of cardio when it comes to losing fat while preserving muscle. Went a little bit long there, but that's fine. I feel like the rest of the points are pretty obvious though. Let's run through them anyway. Other important factors are sleeping optimally every night. Don't take any advice from me when it comes to sleep because I get like 4 to 6 hours, which is not the greatest. 7 to 9 hours is best. That also means having a solid wind down routine where you're off electronics at least a half hour before bed. Sleep helps regulate the hormones that impact fat loss and maintaining muscle. Not to be overlooked if you're serious. This is the king of recovery. Don't forget that. So obviously I can't get to sleep at night. I'll sleep like 10 to 3, 10 to 4. So it's like 6 hours. And then during the day, hopefully I can take like a nap. It's not the greatest, but it's a slight substitution that I could do there. And you got to stay hydrated. So proper hydration is essential for overall health and can support fat loss and muscle preservation. Drink water throughout the day, of course, and consider consuming fluids like herbal tea or infused water for added variety. Manage stress. Okay, so chronic stress. This can lead to muscle loss and fat gain, so we want to avoid stress as much as possible. That would mean incorporating stress-reducing activities such as meditation, maybe deep breathing exercises. I love doing that, especially either in the sauna or the steam room. I like yoga or, just find any hobby you enjoy to help manage stress levels. I journal every night just to recap the day, and hopefully that can release some of my stress. I feel like it helps. Tracking progress. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but basically just monitor your progress by tracking any changes in body comp, such as measurements, maybe body fat percentage, in-body scan, strength gains. I think that's a huge one. Adjust your nutrition and training regimen as needed to continue to make progress towards your goals. And I think a really big one is being patient and consistent. Fat loss and muscle preservation takes time and consistency, so stay committed to your nutrition and exercise plan. Be patient with the process. Celebrate small victories along the way to stay motivated. This is exactly what me and one of my clients talked about the other day. That's why I felt like it was right to talk about this topic in the first place. And I think by implementing some of these strategies, or all of them, you can effectively lose fat while preserving muscle mass. This is going to result in you looking leaner, having a stronger physique, and just an overall better life, which is what we're all looking forward to. Like, we're not always looking for, I need to be 12% body fat and 100 pounds of muscle mass. Like, this is about your health. That's first and foremost over anything. Like, we don't want to be relying on medicine for the rest of your life, right? You don't want to be doing that. So follow some of these tips and hopefully that helps. Question 2, differences between circuit training versus straight sets. There's all kinds of ways to train in order to build muscle, so this really depends on your goals. But if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you should know that I'm all about working on improving muscle mass so that you can boost your metabolism and maintain a good and healthy weight. Kind of talked about that already today. When it comes to building muscle, without a doubt, straight sets would be best. That would be the biggest benefit to doing them. This is because straight sets include the rest periods in them, which is where the real benefit comes in. You're using the ATP system in your body and letting that recover for 1 to 2 minutes between sets, give or take. That's what's going to tell your body to build muscle, and you'll have the energy to push through those sets with enough intensity to send your body the right signal. On the other hand, you have circuit training, like HIIT style, kind of. You basically do a bunch of exercises back to back, usually more than 2 exercises in a row. You want to be hitting as much muscle groups as possible to make it worth your while. This would be a bit more like cardio. It's like cardio with weights. Yes, you could still get stronger, but this style of training is more useful when it comes to saving time. You can do a lot in a minimal amount of time. Here, there's minimal rest between sets, so your heart rate is elevated most of the time. There are times when I actually train this way because I might only have 15 to 30 minutes to train that day. Instead of me being able to only fit in a bench press and one other exercise, I'll superset and do a little mini circuit to hit whatever muscles I need or that I want to hit. But it's not the foundation or the main way I train personally. I'm not saying that it won't be beneficial for anybody, but I see people benefiting more from straight sets. If you're someone who only looks at your watch and looks at calories burned, then obviously circuit style training will be the king during the workouts at least. Your heart rate's elevated for so long and you're not giving your body time to rest, so of course you're going to be burning a ton of calories during the workout, but this doesn't necessarily mean the right benefit though, according to what your goals may be. Straight sets will be more beneficial for most people because you can easily determine how much weight, how much sets, how much reps to achieve or to do in order to progressively overload, which is a main factor when it comes to packing on muscle. And just because I think that it's better to do straight sets doesn't mean that circuit style training is useless. One of the factors when it comes to exercise consistency is how much you're enjoying the style of training you're doing. So if you're someone who enjoys circuit training, then just do it. Whatever helps you stay consistent over the long term is the exercise style that's going to work for you. But there are pros and cons to both styles of training, so you just have to know that. Like I said, you can train either way. I think it's good to experience both and see which ones you prefer or which style you prefer. Straight sets are likely going to be better for the beginner because you do get to rest in between sets, and even as you become more advanced, training with straight sets will really help you put on muscle, like I said, because you can track workouts and really work on the progressive overload style, make sure you're getting stronger. If you're getting stronger, that means you're putting on muscle regardless of what some scale says, okay? Circuit training is great when you're short on time, so I do it at times as well, but most of my training and my clients' trainings that I prescribe for them because of their goals will be centered around doing straight sets. And that concludes episode 135 of the podcast. Thank you for listening. If you really enjoyed the episode or my podcast as a whole, then please leave a review and comment on iTunes or whatever your choice of podcast platform is. Also, if you haven't already, you should hit that subscribe button because I'll be releasing episodes every Friday. If you want to follow me, your host, I'm Isaiah.Copon on Instagram. And you can also check out my website, isaiahcopon.com. If you want to follow the podcast, you can check out @Lift and Learn Podcast on Instagram. And there's also a Facebook page if you just search Lift and Learn Podcast.